morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Byrne from DBpsychology Services, known across social media as DBpsychology. So today I'm going to talk about this week's blog, which is all about another aspect of self-care, which is self-acceptance or regaining self-acceptance. A lot of the times we lose this self-acceptance as we grow up, or from some experience that we have in our lives. For instance, if you were married to somebody or in a relationship with somebody that was constantly putting you down, or if you worked with somebody, if you had a boss who was an abusive boss, that, you know, your self-acceptance, your self-esteem, everything can be knocked, can be chipped away slowly but surely over time, and you lose your sense of self-acceptance for who you truly are. And this is all, today's blog is all about that, regaining that sense of self-acceptance. Again, if it was childhood trauma, we can lose our sense of self-acceptance, and with that, our sense of self-esteem. So we end up then feeling not good enough, and we are constantly then bombarded with images of so-called perfection from the media, which we know are altered, or from social media now. So anybody and everybody can post, but they're not going to post, you know, their true lives. They're not going to post the dirty kitchen. They're not going to post, you know, how tired they are. They're not going to post what it really took to create that photograph and that perfect image, as we call it. So we end up, when we have this sense of not feeling good enough, we tend then to compound it by seeking validation outside of ourselves. You know, we lose our trust in ourselves. In effect, that's what we do. We lose our trust in ourselves. So how can you correct all that? You can do quite a number of steps, and I've listed them all out in the blog, which you can find at www.DeborahByrnePsychologyServices.com. The first thing is to decide enough is enough. I've had enough. I'm not taking this anymore. Something has to change. And remember, I talked about the stages of change, and there is a blog and a vlog about that. So I would urge you to check that out. If you're going to do this process, do check out that blog on the stages of change and decide enough is enough. I've had enough. Something has to change, and it's going to be me, because that is really the only person you can change is yourself. And then thus, it helps you change your environment by doing that. The next step I would say to you is to get to know yourself, to get to know yourself again. When we have lost that sense of self-accepting who we truly are, we tend to lose, you know, what we want, what we need, and, you know, we tend to lose ourselves. So getting to know yourself, and you can do that by two things. Meditation. I always recommend meditation, because the meditation will allow you to slow the brain down and get to hear what thoughts are going on in your brain. So therefore you can do the second part, which is journaling. It doesn't have to be a Dear Diary, as I've said before, a brain dump, getting it out, whatever the thoughts are, the key points, bullet journal, just get it all out and start doing that every day. Just start getting out what thoughts you think are coming up, and see, can you recognize the patterns, and see, can you see, you know, whose thoughts they were originally. And then you can delete those thoughts. We can delete the thoughts and replace them. As always, I said, if you're deleting something, you have to put in place some positives. So I would say use affirmations as well. So it's 3 things you can do initially off the bat: meditation, journaling, and affirmations. And then you start to recognize those thoughts and you start to delete them. You also have to accept that you're going to need to let go of the outside validation. So that can be done in multiple ways. One very big way is to step away from social media and, you know, look at what you're looking at, what you're listening to, and look for more positive things. Look for more grounded and realistic things to look at. Even television. What am I looking at on TV? What messages am I receiving? What messages You may not think that the messages that you're receiving are having an effect, but they really are. They do have an effect. Always remember, the brain doesn't know what's reality and what we're feeding it, in terms of imagination and things like that from television and films and from the radio and everything else, podcasts and everything else that you're listening to. And in that also will be, I would say, to start reducing your stress levels. So look at reducing ways and means that you can reduce your stress levels. And a way you can do that is to review your priorities. What am I doing? An awful lot of the times when we have lost our sense of self, we take on too much. We're seeking validation from outside. So we'll take on other people's jobs. We'll take on things for other people to people please. So therefore, we probably should have taken on too much. And now it's time to hand those responsibilities back or delete them. Maybe we're just doing too much and we're not asking for help from others. And, hand those responsibilities back and reduce your stress levels. Again, there are blogs and vlogs. I have an extensive blog on stress and how you can reduce that, particularly if you're a woman. The next thing is it's all about acceptance. So accept where you are right now and accept that that is perfect. Right now, who you are and where you are is okay, and it's perfect just for you. It may not be where you want to be, but if we don't accept where we are right now and the reality of the situation, we have nowhere to go up from. So if you need to think about, well, where am I at right now? Where do I want to be? And I'll come to that in a minute. But we need to accept this is like a baseline. This is our baseline. This is where I am at this moment in time. And take it one day at a time. So it's going to take time to regain this sense of self-acceptance of who you truly are. It didn't happen overnight. Rarely does it happen. I know can be occasions when it can happen. A very bad trauma can cause it to happen overnight, but most of the time, for most of us, it's a chipping away. It's a wearing us down, that this sense of not being good enough, that we're not acceptable, happens slowly. So it does take time to regain that, and we have to do this one day at a time. Really, the motto would be one day at a time, and I would write that up and I would put it up somewhere. You can see that is going to be one day at a time. The next thing I suggest is that you just start doing forgiveness work. So if you have your journaling going, if you are deleting the negative thoughts, if you are, you've recognized them, you've recognized that pattern, you're doing your meditation, you're centering yourself, you're reducing your stress level, and you've decided to start handing back things to people, then I would say it's time to start doing your forgiveness work. And don't forget to put yourself on the top of the list. Forgiving is very hard, and most people get confused between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness only takes you. That's all, just you being willing to forgive, particularly yourself, and that's going to be very, very hard, and I do have a blog on it. But just if you can accept yourself and forgive yourself, that will go a huge amount of the way down the road to allowing you maybe to forgive somebody else or just let them go. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation, and it doesn't require the other person to be in your life, and it doesn't require them to say they're sorry, because in most cases you won't get that sorry. You just won't ever get that sorry. And then we're going to introduce a bit of making time for you again. So we've freed up some of our time by allowing others to take on their responsibility. So now we have some free time, and we don't want to be taking on other things again from other people. We want to be doing things for ourselves. So I'll go back to it, basic self-care, and I did a Facebook Live on that during the week, so do check that out. So self-care and setting healthy boundaries all along, everything I've said so far: meditation, journaling, deleting the negative thoughts, handing back responsibilities, reducing our stress, all self-care, and it's all setting healthy boundaries in your life for you. Then we get to start asking for what we want. What do you want? If you've gotten to know yourself, then you'll know what you want and you need in your life. Now is the time to start asking for it. That could mean asking for help. It could mean attending a therapy group. It could mean attending a support group. Whatever that is, reaching out to only positive family and friends. Get them into your life. And that'll lead you on to deleting the negative people. If you are still in a situation where the negativity is still going on, where you are, this is all, your sense of self is still being chipped away, you're not going to be able to do this work. You will not feel safe and secure enough to do it. So perhaps the first step would be to move on from that situation, let that person go, move on and get a new job and let that go. But when I say delete negative people, it's other negative people. Generally, if we have had one situation in our lives where somebody has caused us trauma and negativity, we tend to pick up other negative people as well, particularly if we're not feeling good about ourselves. So, start deleting those negative people. And I have steps you can go through to help you do that. You don't have to do it all in one big grandiose weekend, everybody on the list and then you're gone. You don't have to do it like that. And that sometimes is the hardest thing to do. I've said it before, start making more time for the positive people, thereby you haven't got time really to be with these negative people. And slowly but surely they will you'll filter them out basically. And the last thing I'll say today is believe in yourself. And part of believing in yourself is to start stepping out of that comfort zone. And I have 8 steps on how you can step out of your comfort zone. It's in the blog, at the bottom of the blog, and how you can do that in small increments. It's always going to be in very tiny, tiny baby steps. That way the change is more likely to stick. And I've talked about this a few weeks ago, where we want to change something, we do it in the babyest step we can take. You have to think of yourself as a baby learning to walk for the very first time. They don't just take very large, big strides. They take tiny, tiny steps, maybe only on the tips of the toes sometimes. So I talk about that in the blog. As I said, there's 8 steps on how you comfort zone, and that's part of moving on from your baseline. Do you remember I said you accept where you are right now, and that's your baseline, and then you move out from there. So this is the next part, we move out from there. So that's it for this week. Part of this lack of self-acceptance can be, we can get caught up in procrastination, and the blog on Monday is all about that. So I will be talking about procrastination and how you can handle that next Saturday morning. So for today, I'm going to say thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Deirdre, for tuning in as always, and I will see you next Saturday morning. And do check out the blog on procrastination on Monday. And thank you all for listening, and thank you anybody who's watching in replay. Good morning.